Good morning. Good morning. Please go ahead. Find your seats. And we're going to get going. Thank you so much for being here this morning. This is Team Inc.'s 58th annual meeting, and it's so nice to be here in a room full of friends, community partners. You know, last year was the first year in a while we were able to have this event in person, and we had about 200 people. We were just blown away by that. This year we're pushing 240, plus it's 8 a.m. and you guys still showed up, and there's no bar and you're still here. So we really appreciate it. Thanks so much. My name is Lily McKenzie and I work at Team. Our program this morning, we're gonna highlight a few of Team's programs and priorities, what we've been working on throughout this past year, but we do have a limited amount of time. And Team does so much, as you know, from our diaper bank, center-based childcare, family childcare home partnerships, case management, housing and food help, home heating assistance, income tax assistance, job and employment training, Meals on Wheels, adult incontinence products, medical transportation, homemaking, and more. That is a lot. Not to mention our community initiatives with the Valley MLK Committee, Juneteenth, and the work of All In. So we can't cover all of this today. There's our All In folks over there. We can't cover all of this today, but we are going to do our best to touch on some of our top Team priorities and highlight some of the work in the year ahead. But please keep your annual reports handy, walk away with them today, hold on to them, flip through, and take a look at the broad scope of what Team is all about. But we do hope that you get curious, ask questions, talk to the Team staff, and we hope that you walk away today learning one new thing about Team that you didn't know before, as well as meet somebody new. You're in a room full of leaders today from this region. That includes each of you. Please make connections. We believe we can only make our communities stronger by working together, and that's all about building relationships. So we're so happy we have a room full of people. Try to make connections with somebody you don't know. A few housekeeping items. We will have no formal break this morning, so feel free to get up and refill your plates, refill your coffee, however needed. That hot food out in the hallway will be put away in about an hour, so make sure you're taking advantage, filling your plates now. And I wanted to highlight a couple of items that you might have seen on your way in. First, I want to talk about the E3 Connector program. That stands for Equitable Entrepreneurial Ecosystem. This is an entrepreneurial support program providing startup resources, guidance, and technical assistance to new startup businesses in our region with a focus on underserved business creators. This is coming soon to the Valley region. It's going to be a huge opportunity. So if you know any businesses who are just getting started, looking to get started, or want to get to that next level and need some resources to do so, please see Arthur Thomas and Joe Williams from the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. They're bringing this resource to the Valley. We're really excited about it. So please ask them questions to get to know a little bit about it. And I also want to thank our sponsors for this morning. First, the Valley Community Foundation. They've been just an incredible partner and supporter and change maker in our region. And we're so thankful for their ongoing support. And we have Sharon Closius here this morning. So thank you to the Valley Community Foundation. Secondly, Newtown Savings Bank. Newtown Savings Bank has made a very generous sponsorship of this event and really made this happen. They've gone above and beyond their typical supportive Team. They're really generous to our volunteer income tax assistance program, but they've really made this event happen today. There have been wonderful community partners. They've got real touch points in this community. They know the people that they serve, and that's what community banking is all about. So we really appreciate them. We're our friends at Newtown Savings Bank. Where are they? Yeah, thank you. And a couple of programs to highlight: the Newtown Savings Bank's Welcome Home Mortgage Program, as well as Time to Own, which is by the Connecticut Department of Housing, and Newtown Savings Bank is also accepting applications. These are two first-time homebuyers programs designed to help individuals and families get into their first home and overcome some of the barriers that they might be facing, including that down payment. And we know that home ownership is huge. It can change the trajectory of a family's life, providing stability, the opportunity to build wealth. So we do want to make sure that our community is aware of these programs. So there are flyers out in the hall. Please take them and please ask questions and spread the word about these opportunities. And with that, we're looking forward to a great program. Thank you again for being here, and I will turn it over to Mr. David Morgan.
Good morning, everybody. That is a tough act to follow. Please join all of us at Team for a moment. I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. We like to dedicate, this is our 58th annual meeting for Team Incorporated. And on behalf of the board of directors and the staff, we want to welcome you. And what we like to do is dedicate each of our annual convenings to those that have passed and those that are still with us. And I would ask, and for those of you who were here 1 year ago, and those who are with us, who were not with us a year ago, an incredible speech by the beloved champion from the 100th District of Middletown, Connecticut, State Representative Quentin Williams, fondly known as Q. And I know we have a number of our Connecticut General Assembly here. Q was a champion for entities just like Team Inc., was a North Star in the Connecticut General Assembly across both sides of the aisle, chaired the Housing Committee, and really right here, literally 365 days ago, shared a story of self from his own perspective, and also the work ahead. And speaking with him a few days later that weekend, he was so appreciative of all of you and Team Inc. for being able to share that story that he had not shared before, and about what's at stake when we talk about housing and homes. And speaking with his mom yesterday and the family over the last couple of months, his brothers and Reverend Harville, we're just honored to dedicate this morning. I think what Q, and if you knew Q and knew his faith, Q's great. But Q, ironically, he spoke about this being a pivotal moment for him. His words were a pivotal moment for many of us here, many in this room, to be fearless, behold the unadulterated truth. He spoke to buts, and always pay attention to what happens after the word but. We want housing, but. And so please join me in reverence to his family for a moment of silence as we dedicate this morning to Q. Thank you. I would now like to, before we go any further, I'd like to ask one of our team board of directors and leader, also senior pastor at Clinton AME Zion Church in Ansonia, a leader on many levels, including our Valley MLK committee, to come up for some brief centering as we come together and hold true to what Lily has asked us all to do this morning. And so please join me in welcoming team board member Reverend Brian Riley.
Good morning. We say greetings to everyone. We praise God for 248 a.m. gathering this morning. I just want to share a couple of verses of scripture. Everything's centered around God, and we can't center anything without God's word. So I'm going to read a couple of verses of scripture from Psalm 46, verses 10 through 11. And the word of God reads, He says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress." So our centering this morning is based on the presence of God and his love. Amen? Amen. I ask that you take a moment to clear your minds and your hearts and meet me at the cross, the anchor and center of our foundation, which is love. Heavenly Father, we thank you for being the almighty creator of all. We thank you for blessing Team Incorporated and everyone associated with, partnered with, employed by, and touched by Team Incorporated. We thank you for allowing and equipping Team Incorporated to impact the lives in the various communities it serves, which is achieved through love. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your love that rains down on us vertically and intersects horizontally by the spreading of your love through Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and all of us, soldiers of the cross, who are assembled here today. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our fallen soldiers, but we thank you for Quentin Q. Williams. We thank you for his family. We thank you for the community that he derives from. We thank you for his church, Cross Street Amy Zion Church in Middletown, Connecticut. We all know it takes a village to raise soldiers at the cross. And Quentin Q. Williams was a special soldier of the cross. He was a champion for those he represented. And let us have just another moment to reflect on Quentin's words that was spoken here just 1 year ago. And we just want to continuously uplift his family, his community, and his church family in prayer. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. That word love is a beautiful word, whether you're faith, interfaith, no faith, God, grace, universe, whatever your thing. I know we can all agree love is what binds us all on this short time on earth together. Walk in the same path of Team Inc. I appreciate you, Reverend, for the centering. We also want to dedicate those who are still with us. As the great Dr. Benjamin Fink once said, please bring me roses while I'm still here. And we have a special member here this morning that we also want to dedicate, who has not only left an incredible mark on Team, was one of the first leaders I met in my first week at Team a few years ago. And I'm not a Valley native. I'm not a Milford native. I came very new here. And Mr. Edward Levy, who's sitting here with his family, I'll never forget my first week working at Team Inc. in a different chapter, in a different role. And Ed is a Shelton native, and his expertise is one with an engineering lens. And is the slides rolling, Ed? Yeah, great, thanks. I'm flying blind here, so beware. And the pictures tell 1,000 words, and we can only give you a brief sense. And I'll also give a little reflection of Team as far as some of the work we have done within early childhood and Head Start and child care, and this journey we have been on together, including the incredible, you'll see in our board chair, our team board chair, Mr. Brian Fonk's letter to you in the annual report, inviting you to come see Team. We have locations in Milford, Ansonia, Shelton, other areas in the Valley, Waterbury, partnerships in Naugatuck. And one of our asks to you is that if you're intrigued by anything, please reach out to Lily. Please reach out to myself or anyone at Team. We welcome you to a tour to see the absolute artistry of what Mr. Ed Levy has not only done through his engineering lens, but through his heart and mind and soul as far as leaving a lasting impact that's going to echo beyond all of our times and for countless generations, the work that Ed has done. And I'll give you a couple of little pieces when you think about this thing we call Team Inc. in early childhood and Head Start. And you'll see it in the annual report. I'm going to gloss over it. You can dive into it. And again, open invitation to you to come see some of our work. Close to 500 young children throughout our region provided the Head Start and child care promise that otherwise would not have been possible without the work of Team and the expertise of Ed Levy over spanning the last 4 decades in partnership with Team Inc. A few years ago, Team Inc. was recognized right from our Ansonia location and in our Valley footprint, top 10% in the country with its Head Start performance from federal reviews with the Health and Human Services Department. A few years later, we were the first in the state of Connecticut, recognized when the White House, under then President Barack Obama, holding the first ever White House Summit on early childhood, Team Inc. was the first in the state of Connecticut recognized with this unprecedented initiative, Early Head Start Child Care Partnership, and it was taking the work of child care and to the art and science of holistic, comprehensive partnering and care management with families in difficult circumstances so they can pursue their own dreams and gainful employment. And so through that partnership, that has evolved, and we are actually the largest Head Start footprint in the state of Connecticut, and we are the family child care hub for what we call Region 1, which stretches from this area all the way up through Greater Waterbury region, where we're partnered with close to 400 family child care homes and increasing child care supply for working people in Connecticut. If you've looked at the latest headlines from CBIA, Connecticut Business Industry, their top 2 needs they're screaming for, if we're really going to see an economic vitality long-term for the state of Connecticut, housing and child care. And we're really proud and honored to be playing a small role in addressing that solution. Well over 1,700 kids with our nutrition and food insecurity programs. And throughout the devastating impacts and realities of the coronavirus pandemic, we were able to expand and build with our eye on long-term recovery. And we are on renewal and recovery as the pandemic sunsetted as a public health emergency this past May, where we expanded and increased access to 48 new infant toddler child care slots right here in the Valley that families need and want and are screaming for so they can pursue gainful employment and their own dreams. And we added an additional 80 infant toddler slots in the city of Waterbury on the north side of Waterbury, working with Mayor O'Leary and Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, which is here in this space, Rick Dunn and Mr. Backlick and Drew Backlick and the staff. It's just an amazing footprint on childcare. In some of these images, you're seeing a lot of befores and afters. This is the artistry and this is the expertise of you, Mr. Ed Levy. This is what you have done, and we could not have done it without you. Please allow me to indulge. I'd like to ask Jamie Peterson, Wendy Rodrigo, Ruth Chantry, Jamie Cullen, Emily Maristein, Emily Pena. Please stand up. You've got to recognize these amazing leaders at Team. Ed, I would be remiss. I think fondly of our years together, working on the ground in Ansonia and Shelton, Derby, Waterbury, Milford. I say this with such love. You know, when I think about Mary Jane, your loving wife, who's now been to eternal rest since 2016. But Mary Jane was a champion in the Shelton High School, worked in Shelton City Hall. I think what really left an indelible mark was her dedication to over 80 infants, providing foster care, and how Mary Jane provided the same loving care she gave to those kids that she gave to her own family, and some of her family is here today. And you know, I'm a human services kid, you know, and Ed's really good with the engineering stuff, but I think Mary Jane definitely spilled into Ed on the art side of the art and science of doing the work. And I say that with love and appreciation for you, Ed, your family, and to Mary Jane. And so I would like to ask Ryan if it's possible, I think it's the last slide, where we put a dedicated, beautiful landscaped piece prominently displayed in front of one of our largest early childhood sites that, again, is being recognized near and far, regionally, state, and even on the country level as an exemplar. Is it up there? No? Okay. It was up for it. Okay. Move on. Thank you. Got it. All right. So Ed, with sincere appreciation and admiration, we want to dedicate this annual meeting to you. And we hope to everybody, this is an opportunity, bring love and roses to people who are still with us. Forgive me for being a little too kind of speechy there, but life is fleeting. And so, and boy, you got a lot of work to do ahead. A lot of work. And again, the history and the work we've done in partnering with Ansonia. I know Mayor Cassetti's here. We appreciate that. Next thing I'm going to go on to is I want to briefly just recognize our elected officials that are here today. First Select Woman, Town of Seymour, Anne Marie Jagonis. Ansonia, City of Ansonia, Mayor David Cassetti. City of Derby, Mayor Richard Zekin. State Representative Jason Perillo, Shelton. Lou Mangini from the office of Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro's office. And Department of Housing Commissioner, who could not come, was really excited to come this morning because we had a speaker she couldn't wait to hear from, Mr. Haynes, and I'll share about that in a brief minute. Connecticut Department of Housing Commissioner Sela Mascaro Bruno was going to be here, but we got trumped by Governor Lamont, so he's holding a commissioner's retreat, so we won't take it personally. But we're actually equally winning because we have Dr. Shanti Hanks here from the Connecticut Department of Housing, and please give a hand to Dr. Hanks. And I'm going to briefly close in on the reflections of team. Again, in the last year alone, you can see the annual report. We positively impacted more than 17,000 individuals from all walks of life. That number is unprecedented. I said last year the number was unprecedented. And again, across the whole array of, you heard me speak to childcare, but the whole array of basic needs and empowerment services, strengthening communities as well as revitalizing communities, working with our greatest generation, older adults, through Meals on Wheels and our elderly nutrition programming and other elder care, case management, and medical transportation, and other services. And a couple of things I heard Lily say. We hope you learned something new. I'll say, team. This is, as Reverend Riley said, this is year number 58. We are, and I don't say this with arrogance. We are actually codified. We are not just another not-for-profit. And I don't say that with arrogance. I say that with incredible level of accountability and scrutiny and what's at stake. And what I mean by that, not being just another nonprofit, is we are actually codified in state statutes as your region's designated anti-poverty agency. And we're actually also codified in federal statutes. When you go back to the 60s, where TEAM was born out of the war on poverty, and it required, both sides of the aisles and names, from executive and legislative leadership, from Sergeant Shriver to Lady Bird Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson, the grassroots community organizing efficacy of the civil rights era, and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the intersection of this work. And the names have changed often, but at risk of geeking out here a little, the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964 still rings true to this very day and is what drives the work of TEAM. Today it's called Community Services Block Grant to our state officials and federal officials here, and many other alphabet soups and pieces. And so, two simple things: current conditions and root causes. And I'll use the example of food. A lot of people were talking about food this morning. So current need to create more food pantries and to mobilize resources to respond to the increased need for assured access to food. It's a mixed emotion because it can be saddening to see more peoples and more need. The mixed emotion is to see the beauty of the people in this room and many throughout the region to respond and mobilize to respond to that growing need. So that's a current condition. But team, with loving agitation, will say what, pray tell, is going on that warrants the need for more food pantries. We will not just sit on relief giving, making poverty livable, and at risk of entering a dark dead end of savior stuff, okay? Loving agitation, what is going on? And our key areas and what we say to you when we look at the community, our community needs assessment and the thousands plus who responded to Team's community assessment and the public data, housing is number one, okay? And I'm really excited and honored that we have a guest today who's gonna speak about that. I'm not gonna get into it. And we have a lot of information on our team site, a lot of workshops we've done. We've just released our last workshop around homes and the rising cost of housing from both a landlord-tenant perspective as well as home ownership and the need to create homes and more affordable homes for our workforce if we're truly going to thrive. As Lily said, today's, I hope, a time as you've reconnected with some people. It's hard to stop doing the work and talk about the work. I can't stand doing this part, talking about, like, we want to get to work. But it's really important. We hope that you get to meet people in this room that you haven't met before and create a new relationship. So I challenge you, the place is yours after we're done here. Hang out, connect with one another, set up a future time, one-on-one, group, etc., as we try to peel the onion and dive deep on some of these complex causality issues, because we can only do this together. So I challenge you to do that. And then really excited to highlight 3 champions. We have Maureen Coffey here today, fondly known and a loving, dear colleague and friend, fondly known as Mo. We have Griffin Health's Population Health Department and some of their leaders and staff here today. And then we have Jones Family Farms and Winery, including Jamie and Christiana Jones and Terry and Jean Jones and everyone from the Jones family. And our goal is to shine the light on the transformative impact that they've had on Team, more importantly, on the people turning to Team and the communities that we partner so closely with. And our hope is that it inspires you to deepen your work and deepen your connection, or to amplify what you may be doing and people don't know and they want to be part of the solution. So we're really looking forward to that. And then the last 2 pieces is this aspect of homes and housing. Really honored to have Mr. Tom Haynes himself share from a developer, visionary, legacy builder perspective, the critical importance when we think about economic development and housing. And we're also going to shine the light on another piece of what we call home. So there's the home, in our humble opinion, of the brick and mortar and the framing and the structure. But then there's also the home in the sense of belonging, the sense of how do we deconstruct the fear of the unknown? How do we deconstruct the fear of strangers? And how do we build relational infrastructure within our towns and cities and build the things that we not only need, but what we want? And there's so much, you know, too many plunderers and exploiters want to tell us we're divided. It's absolute nonsense. The more you get people in spaces like this, you actually find, even amidst the division, there's so much common ground. And then we can make stuff together. We can actually make more homes. We can make, you know, new pathways for people to pursue their dreams and their happiness. So wanted to give you a little flavor of that, of what we've been doing on building that as well. So I'm really honored to have Mr. Kevin Atterbury speak, not only about some of the beauty of the work in the past, this past year, but the work ahead and how you might want to jump in and get involved with that work. I'm going to roll into Griffin Health Services, if I may. I'm not going to do anything because I don't have any of my notes in front of me. So. Yeah, that would be great. Nothing to see here. Carry on. Keep calm. Carry on. Thanks for your tolerance and patience. Anybody hear of the Loan Institute? Well, this isn't an interactive thing, so I'll keep this going. So, Mayor Loretti, I think if he gets here, he's going to yell at me for leaning on the podium. But, So with all seriousness, the Loan Institute in recent years released a hospital index, and they're a third-party 501c3 nonpartisan entity. They've got a national reach, looking across all of American hospitals. Over 3,600 hospitals across the country, including obviously right here in the state of Connecticut. They convene experts. They spark public debate. They conduct deep research, and they try to bridge the gap between some of the existing policy and the care that Americans need and what they want and what Americans deserve when we this big umbrella of what we call health and well-being and healthcare. And it really is the first national ranking to define clear, measurable standards for hospital social responsibility. And it's got over 53 metrics that they administer on this comprehensive assessment. And to protect our time, I'll simplify it into these 3 buckets of metrics, of those 53 metrics: patient outcomes, value, and health equity. And that's what makes them very unique, because a lot of the ranking systems just look at patient outcomes. And so when you start to peel the onion into social responsibility, it can get, the gauntlet and the bar can go up quite high. And when the Loan Institute sets these national benchmarks, they're really trying to, similar to what I was saying earlier, they like to highlight and the great work that hospitals are doing across the country, in hopes of not to shame hospitals, maybe, but to inspire other hospitals to see that beacon of light and that beacon of innovation and say, wait, we can do that too. We can do that too. We are not just a healthcare institution. We can immerse ourselves in, for, and with the community and transcend the social and economic and environmental impacts that clearly have a result on population level health and wellness. So the results came out, and again, there was 3,603. It was over 3,600. Right here in the state of Connecticut, Griffin Health Services, out of 3,600 plus, scored number 118 in the entire country. And you know who was number 1 in the state of Connecticut? Whoever helped me before, help me again. Who was number 1 in the state of Connecticut? Wild guess. Griffin Health Services, number 1 in the state of Connecticut, as ranked by the Loan Institute as the most socially responsible hospital in the state of Connecticut. A big reason for that is the leadership of Griffin, the staff that pour themselves into the work of Griffin, and we really want to shine the light on the Griffin Population Health Department, led by Todd Liu, Monica Orris, and a number of many champions within that work. And you think about, I'm going to kind of bring it close to team here on some of the work that we've seen. Again, team, we have this new initiative. We've gotten leaned in by the state of Connecticut to implement a community-based organization, localized level around community health workers on reaching and identifying hard-to-reach neighborhoods, how to build trust with those most affected by the issues. Progress moves at the speed of trust. Nobody wants to be talked at, told what to do, what to take, what needle to. You have to connect with people, and there's an art and science of that. I'm biased, but I believe team does that. More specifically, the team staff do that really well and are exemplar in that area. And so we've done a number of innovations in partnering with a lot of groups, including Griffin Health Services and their Population Health Department. And so when you're seeing things from, the Griffin Valley Parish Nurse Program, which is the oldest running in the country, by the way, the work with supporting older adults, the intentional, deliberate efforts partnering with the faith communities, the Safe Kids program at our schools, our child care programs, the Child Passenger Safety program, CPR, the Age Well initiative, breast wellness, diabetes education, Alzheimer's support, A whole nother area within the Griffin Population Health Department around nurse navigators, community health workers, the health-related social needs and care coordination with community organizations like a Team Inc. and many others, the innovative technology and the remote monitoring so that patients can remain home where they want to be. They don't want to be in the emergency department. They don't want to be in the hospital longer. And this department really bridges that and eradicates some of those barriers and allows people to be within their home through the work of Griffin in this department. Lowering these initiatives around education and wellness and lowering the prescription costs. And then there are, that third engine within this department of like the employee wellness efforts, inward facing, but I'd also say to you outward facing, helping other organizations look through a different lens on another extreme, terrifying challenge for both for-profits and non-for-profits, the rising out of control, non-transparent costs of healthcare plans, and Griffin's innovations to reach out and educate. I know public sectors as well. There's elected officials here in city departments that have benefited from that. All of this made possible by Griffin's Population Health Department and the leaders of Griffin Health Services. And Brian Funk, in our board chair in open letter, he talks a little bit about our community health worker program from a community-based organization like a Team Inc. lens. So we're excited as this is taking off, and please allow me the real gold of Team, the corporate of what Team is all about is its staff. So please indulge me. I'd like to ask Jillian Ruisi, Marcelin Joseph, MJ, Camille Perez, and Kathleen Nunez, and Brian Funk. I'd just ask you to please briefly stand and be recognized at Team. This work is very significant and real, and so it's an honor for us to shine the light on Monica. I got to give a shout out to some of the frontline staff, Maria and Denora at Griffin. Even the sweat equity, just rolling up the sleeves, moving food. We have this team, project, mobilizing action for the nutritional needs of all. Project Manna. People know it better as the Bazzuto's Drop or the thing we do at Contractor Nation. And there's businesses in this room who have poured their volunteerism into it. They've donated to it. And I get in trouble for this sometimes because Griffin doesn't want the fanfare, but Griffin is the major contributor into that Team Project Manna work that is literally impacting close to 2,000 residents every month. And well over 300 of those individuals accessing these food pantries are older adults over age 60. Another 600 of them are kids under the age of 18. I know some of our school districts are here. Your very students and their families benefiting from that initiative. And just when you think about our ability to move close to 200,000 pounds of healthy foods, dairies, the eggs, the milks, the produces, the fruits and the vegetables, the proteins and the meats, and that equates to about 167,000 meals. Could not have done it without the sweat and the significant leadership advocacy of the work of Griffin and their population health department. So without further ado, on behalf of everyone here in the room, on behalf of everyone at Team, we're honored to recognize Griffin's Population Health Department, including Monica Orris, Todd Liu, and everyone at Griffin with Team's Community Partnership Award. I, once again, don't know what I'm doing, so. Would somebody, if you all rush up at once, it could get really dangerous, so slow down, Griffin. Looks like Monica's the one.
Thank you, David and team, for this award. Of course, we're very honored. I will say, of course, it's my team, Population Health Department, that I'm most proud of. To David's point, I think we have come together, 3 departments came together to make up population health, community outreach and parish nursing, employee wellness, and our outpatient care coordination teams. And they're really special people. We're innovative at Griffin, as you guys know and heard. And sometimes we get thrown a lot of curveballs. And it's great that our team is able to handle those. And we take on those challenges with pride. And we're tenacious. If they ask us to do something, we figure out a way to do it. Even if it means going outside of our comfort zone, which we're really getting pretty good at doing. We typically assess our patients when they're discharged from the hospital at Griffin, and we assess them for social needs. And that's really when Maria and Denora sort of shine. If we find that a patient has food insecurities or housing insecurities, we will make those referrals to TEAM, to our food pantries, or if we find out that they also have advanced care planning needs, we make referrals to Maggie, and Maggie will reach out to them and try to set up some services. If our patients have caregiver issues or are facing dementia or Alzheimer's, we refer them to Carrie Carpino, who leads our Alzheimer's support group. And if we find that there is an employee that has problems, we refer them to Emily Carrizo from our employee wellness program. So all 3 departments work like a well-oiled machine, and we refer amongst each other, which really makes us a special team. The other thing we're really good at is advocacy. We advocate for our patients. There's a lot of really challenging patients in the Valley. I've been a community nurse for over 30 years, working mostly in inner city Hartford. I've seen a lot of challenging situations, and I think the Valley has probably some of the most challenging situations I've ever seen. I always say I'm going to probably write a book about it someday, maybe make some bucks off of it. But we have some really challenging situations, and we figure out a way to manage them. We couldn't do it alone, and that's why we always go to TEAM first to sort of help us manage those most complex patients. In fact, I went about a month ago and met with one of the caseworkers on a really challenging patient, and we just brainstormed on what we could do to help figure out this patient who doesn't use a phone, doesn't read or write, comes to Griffin to get his medications pre-filled every week. That's the only way we know that he takes his meds. And we're really challenging because he's starting to have some decline in his cognitive status. So we're really trying to figure out how to sort of pick him up and hold him up together. And we rely on not only TEAM, but our food pantries, BH Care, all the other community organizations, and that's what really makes Griffin and our community a special place. So we really appreciate that. I know David mentioned Age Well. That's really become a really special program. It's a grant-funded program through Agency on Aging. It's our 2nd year that we've gotten that award. And we're putting it to good use. It's really allowing us to go out to seniors and provide education to 6 different senior sites in the Valley every month. And 4 times a year, we provide food bags. We give them bags of food with a healthy food recipe. And the seniors love it because they get a new recipe and they get the food to go along with it. It encourages some healthy behaviors, and it's encouraging them to get out and to have that, get rid of that loneliness and isolation that unfortunately many of them had during the COVID pandemic. And I think the one thing that makes our team really special is that we're really kind to each other. And I know that seems like a really simple thing, but I think it's so important, and I think that's why we're successful. We're not only kind to our patients, but we're kind to each other. And we've gone through some really tough times over the last few years, but I think being kind to each other and listening and identifying that, when someone's having a rough day, sometimes it's just nice to lean on each other. So we have that same relationship with TEAM. I know Maria and Denora call often if there's a really challenging case and do that. Lean on each other with TEAM as well. So we do appreciate this award. And we know that our community is a better place, not only because of Griffin, but because of all of our community organizations that we work so closely with. So thank you for recognizing us.
At this point, we'd like to present our 2023 Volunteer of the Year Award to a very special team champion, supporter, and volunteer. It's an absolute privilege and pleasure to present this award to the one and only, the incredible Maureen Coffey. I met Maureen about 2 years ago when I started at Team Toys for Kids. I jumped right into that operation. We serve close to 2,000 kids every year, have hundreds of toy collection sites all across our communities. And then we sort, categorize, organize, and document every single toy that comes in. It's about 10,000 toys every year. It's a ton of fun, but also a lot of work. And when I first met Mo, I knew we weren't going to have many volunteers like her. We've spent lots of quality time together in that toy store over the past few years, sometimes 10-hour days for a few months at a time. And a lot of volunteers come in for a few hours and help out, and Mo is just a constant in that store, always with a positive attitude, and always keeping her eye on the prize, thinking about that end goal of welcoming families into our store and creating those special holiday memories for the kids. With such a big project, I would get tired quite easily. Somehow I would get physically tired much faster than Mo. That woman has a lot of stamina, so she could keep going for hours and days. But she would always remind me of just how awesome it was going to be able to welcome the families in to shop for their toys. And Mo's attitude when it comes to volunteering is whatever it takes. I would go to Mo and say, Mo, you've already done so much for us for this project. I feel bad asking you for more, but we really need help getting some more sponsors, contacting this business, or screening applications. She would say, whatever it takes, whatever we have to do to make it successful, I'm happy to do it. And last year she put in almost 100 hours just by herself on this project, and really was the key to make it happen. And then Men Who Cook season came around. This past spring, we had our first Men Who Cook in 4 years, and it was definitely a huge challenge trying to bring this event back together, finding vendors and getting chefs involved. So I was quite nervous, but I asked Mo to be a part of our planning committee, and she didn't hesitate to say yes. And then I just breathed a huge sigh of relief, because if Mo's on a project, I know it's going to be successful. And we did. We had the most successful Men Who Cook ever, raising over $80,000 for Team, and in no small part thanks to Mo. And so given everything that Mo has done, there's no doubt that she is our Volunteer of the Year. But beyond this, most recently, Mo came to David and I a few months ago and asked how she could help Team even more, beyond her volunteerism. She wanted to make a donation and wanted to know what would make the biggest positive impact for Team. So we talked about the Team Legacy Fund. This is a fund held at the Valley Community Foundation meant to support Team's long-term viability and our ability to address community needs years down the road that we can't even think of, making sure we have the funds available to address things that come our way that we can't even fathom yet. So it's held tightly, it has specific parameters, and requires board approvals to be drawn upon, making it a strategic commitment to ensuring Team is always around in our community to respond to our neighbors in need. So donors who contribute to this fund are very special. They can do it either now or through a planned gift, and they're truly committed to the mission of Team and have a heart for this community, because they're willing to help people they don't even know decades down the road in a world where they may no longer be with us. So long story short, Mo is our newest Legacy Society member. And in addition to her Volunteer of the Year award, we have a plaque recognizing her for that transformational gift to Team. Mo is more than a volunteer. She's an ambassador of Team, a champion for Team, and an extraordinary human being. And she doesn't do it for the recognition. It's who she is. And she's got such a genuine heart, and I'm so lucky to call her my mentor and my friend. And Mo, it's our honor to recognize you with the Volunteer of the Year award today.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief because I know most of you have to get back to work. About 7 years ago, I got a phone call from our dear friend Diane Stroman, and she said, "Come on over, we'll have fun." And what a joy it has been. Last October, I lost my mother. She was a school volunteer librarian for 37 years. And instead of staying home and crying and feeling sorry for myself, I moved into the toy store. And we made it a really magical place because the families, the parents, the grandparents, the guardians that come and shop for the children that are never allowed in the store are treated with grace and dignity. They're welcomed. We get them to talk about their children and get them to open up of what does that child really want on Christmas morning. And because of the generosity of so many people in this room, we get the most incredible toys, and it's like God's magic because somebody will request something, and wouldn't you know, a donor brought it in an hour before, and Jamie Peterson is right here to attest to that. It's just the magic and the miracle of the room. So this is such a great honor. I'm a very blessed woman, and this is just what I love to do. So if anybody wants to join me, we are the magic makers. Thank you so much.
I'm going to walk back here. Forgive me. Building the plane while it's in the air, Diane. All right. So I'm going to ask in a minute. Oh, God. So, yeah. Can you hand me my notes on the chair? Good Lord. This is it. This is the last one. No, the other notes. So on the slide here, I just want to recognize the three tri-chairs for our Valley MLK Committee, which we have a lot of members here in the room, many not able to make it. So our fellow team board members, Dr. Leslie Youngblood, Reverend Brian Riley, who did the centering, and then Malika Mosley-Williams, who is also here. I'd love to ask Malika to stand up briefly and be recognized. Malika actually got to enjoy her meal for the first time, having spoke truth to power at a lot of past events with our MLK committee, our Juneteenth event specifically in Ansonia and beyond. Many will remember the headline around the search is on for a place in Derby to display the Valley MLK mural. I have the thing. I was about to say next slide. Okay. And so just want to shine the light. What you're looking at here is the most prominent, most beautiful, and this is well recognized in the state of Connecticut, caught public attention in the media, on the 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock news multiple times, right outside Ansonia City Hall, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., MLK bust, and you can see the beauty of community coming together. And this was right before the devastating realities of the coronavirus pandemic. And it was a $27,000 project. Everybody, we got it done. The community came together. A number of things we did as an MLK committee amidst the pandemic. Many will recall we worked with Southern Connecticut State University and some students pursuing their degree where we did, and you can see all this on one of the team's dedicated web pages, where they did a piece about the mission of the Valley MLK Committee and how we guide the actions and the behaviors of building relationships and stronger communities today and tomorrow. And in the dreams and convictions of Dr. King, who very shortly before he was murdered said, "Where do we go from here?" And we still ask those questions to this day, and we celebrate our successes and the work, and we focus on the work that still needs to be done. And we also did a number of community conversations around community policing, public education, the roles of faith in the community work, and more. And again, a real testament to the work of the Valley MLK Committee, especially Reverend Smith and Malika Mosley Williams and the committee. And there's one of the founders is actually right here in this room, Deacon Dave Gaddison, and Diane Stroman to my left here. So. Just a year ago, we had part of the MLK committee. Its focus is getting very close to having an MLK mural prominently displayed on Main Street in downtown Derby. And our goals are not only to get the mural prominently displayed and done with a selected artist, but also to create a Valley Community Foundation MLK legacy fund with the foundation. And so we've been very effective and dangerously good throughout, even amidst the pandemic, raising funds towards this mural. We have another potential state-level support grant coming in the amount of $5,000. We've raised close to another $7,000. We're really only about $15,000 away, which, you know, forgive me, it's almost budget dust when you look at the big world we're swimming through. If I don't know if I get in trouble for saying that, but my point is it's so doable, and there's so many others far more appropriate to speak to this than I. But it's not just about the mural on the wall. It's not just about the bust. It's the connections and the relationships and building stuff together and what we need and what we want. Take what we're doing well in our communities, double down and make it better, and the areas that need significant improvement that we want to build together, and slicing through real as well as perceived divides. Last year we had a call, and Malika, a very powerful speech, and wanting to send kids on the historically black colleges and universities and civil rights tour. Over 20 kids from Ansonia and the Valley communities were able to go. We hit the financial goal, made it happen, and some of those leaders, some of those high school students, when they came back, in your packet, you'll see the cover here in the middle, you'll see the packet of kids writing their reflections from the tour. And again, when you connect to the work of the Valley MLK Committee around behaviors and actions, they reflected on what they experienced, but what does it mean in 2023, and what does it mean going forward? And at this time, I'd like to ask, to begin coming up to the front, Mayor David Cassetti, City of Ansonia, and I'm going without my notes here, yep, okay. And I'd like to ask Ray Strickland, and I'd like to ask Dan Busquez to also begin migrating up to the front. Because this past, there's always been a beautiful Juneteenth event of bringing people together from all walks of life, all beliefs, all colors, coming together in the spirit of unity in the community under the leadership of Malika and Reverend Riley and Dr. Youngblood. And it was such a beautiful experience that we witnessed when the City of Ansonia and the Board of Alders unanimously approved a proclamation this past June, where it was not only Juneteenth Day, but they called it, and the mayor's gonna read the proclamation, and we wanna share this little piece with our community here today, making the good louder than the bad, that Charles S. Tassin, First Sergeant Charles S. Tatton, was the first black police officer in the city of Ansonia, served in the American Civil War, and was in the very detachment of the Union Regiment that marched into Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, right from here in Ansonia, right here in the Valley. And the individual who did the research and curated a piece and pieced it together and really pulled this incredibly beautiful piece of history. And there's a lot more. I'm just skimming the surface on the great Charles S. Tatton, First Sergeant, great grandfather of Ray, who is standing before you right now. And Dan Busquez, could you please just wave your hand also? The chair of the Ansonia Historical Commission, has done a lot of incredible work in both Ansonia and Derby and for the Valley. We heard Lily say, meet somebody. I implore you, reach out to Dan Boscaz because there's so much more. I'm just skimming the surface, and we wanted to bring you this a little taste of building stronger communities. And so, Mayor, without further ado, if you'd be willing to repeat the proclamation that was read this past June on behalf. Oh, I don't know why they keep me around, Mayor. I got you. I got you. No.
Before I begin, I want to give a big shout out to David Morgan and Lily from, as I sit in the confines of my chair at City Hall, I get many, many calls from people who need toys for Christmas for their children, who need heating oil, who need housing, who need food. And the lifeline I got is Team. I'm able to call them. I explain it to David. I give him phone numbers. I never will give out your cell number. Trust me. But I give the numbers to David, and these people are all taken care of. And the calls I receive from people thanking me for assisting them. So Team is a great organization. I encourage all the Valley communities. I've already talked to my CFO at the end of the table down here that we need to increase the funding for Team next year, and I think that's very important because of everything that he's done for us.
Thank you for coming, everyone. Have a nice day.
But yes, back on June 17th, we had our first annual Juneteenth celebration in Veterans Park on Main Street. It was a wonderful event that many attended, and at that time I presented the First Sergeant Charles S. Tatton's family with a proclamation, and I do have another key to the city for another family member. I'll unveil that in a minute. But the proclamation goes like this. Whereas Charles S. Tatton was born in Hartford on April 3rd, 1845, and whereas in 1863, he enlisted in Company A of the 29th Regiment of Connecticut Infantry, was mustered in as a corporal in March of 1864, and by April rose to the rank of first sergeant, whereas he took part in 13 battles until April of 1865 and was assigned as part of the special military contingent announcing the Emancipation Proclamation of slavery in Galveston, Texas. After the end of the Civil War, which led to the holiday we celebrate today as Juneteenth, after serving faithfully to the end of the war, he was mustered out in October and discharged on November 29th, 1865. And whereas Mr. Tatton married Josephine Louise Picard on June 28th, 1867, they had 13 children. And whereas settled in Ansonia in 1889, where he gave public speeches on patriotism. Being a resident of Ansonia for nearly 30 years, Tatton was Ansonia's first black police officer, serving for 19 years. And whereas Tatton was African American and Nahedic Native American, professionally, he was also a sealer of weights and measures, a painter and a paper hanger, and was employed by the Derby Gas Company, having charge of the Ansonia Holder on Main Street. And now, therefore, I, David Escasetti, Mayor of the City of Ansonia, in recognition of Tatton's service, as well as his role in announcing the emancipation of slavery in the United States of America, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2023, and every June 19th henceforth as First Sergeant Charles T. Tatton Day, duly recognized alongside Juneteenth in the city of Ansonia. And I have a key here to the city that I would like to present to the Tatton family. It opens every door in City Hall. I want to thank everybody for coming, and thank you for letting me present this again to the family. If you have a few words you'd like to say, you're more than welcome.
Just like to say thank you.
Nice and sweet.
Go ahead. You want to speak? Sure. I apologize for being late. I got my COVID results were negative on the way here.
That's good.
I want to thank team, City of Ansonia, Vasquez, for everything you've done. We are truly blessed as a family to have our ancestor be recognized. Charles Tatton has been very influential to me. One, he's the product of ancestors before him that were heroes in the Revolutionary War and the French and Indian War. And I think of the saying, we stand on the shoulders of giants. He also motivated his daughter, Pearl Tatton, who was a professor at a historically black college in West Virginia, to stand up when she was asked to perform in front of the Daughters of the Confederation and promote civil rights and say she was a proud daughter of a Union soldier. You could Google that. It's a very interesting story. And in parting, I want to say that Charles Tatton, my ancestors, and future family members, there's two quotes that stand to mind. One is that an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. The other quote is that anyone can make a difference, and we all should try. Thank you very much. I'd like to say one more thing about Charles Tatton, that he was in the Battle of Richmond, the second battle, and his company commander was wounded and was no longer able to lead. And so he took over the 29th and led them in the Battle of Richmond right up to the Capitol. And so I think that needs to be said. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. I'm so glad Mark, also a descendant and nephew to Ray, was able to make it. And thank you for sharing on your results. Good grief. I'd like to ask Kevin Atterbury to please quickly walk up, and he's going to spend about 4 minutes. No pressure. You know, we'll skip there's some beautiful images. So we've asked Kevin to speak a little bit about the unprecedented Juneteenth event in Seymour and Oxford and an invitation to the work. And as Kevin may be speaking, you might see some of those images of the Seymour Oxford Juneteenth, never before happening. And also the work of All In and an invitation into the work of All In. And so challenge you to, if you have time afterwards, the place is yours when this ends. Reach out to Kevin as well as many of the other names and faces that you saw today. Kevin.
Good morning, everyone. Kevin Atterbury, and wanted to talk to everyone about the All In movement. For everyone that's those guys know. For everyone that's not aware, All In is a community, or it's an alliance of residents, local organizations, and community leaders that have all come together to basically create solutions together. I was first introduced to All In kind of by accident. I went to a meeting in Shelton, thought it was a dinner. They started putting things on the wall and asking questions, and I realized, all right, it doesn't look like timeshare, but it's got to be something else. And they started asking, what do you like about your community? What keeps you up at night? And it was great because everyone just had a really civil conversation, a very diverse group of people, and everyone was just coming together talking about what they liked about what they liked about the community, what kept them up at night. And it's great because it's a bipartisan group, no political affiliation, no religious affiliation, and really just about having a voice in your community, having a voice in your community and having people come together, meet their neighbors. Definitely invite anyone to come talk to me about it, David, Lily, anyone at that table or that table. I could definitely tell you more about it. And one of the great things, actually, Bob Van Agen, if you don't already know him, I don't know if he's still here. There you go, yep. He introduced me to two amazing things this past year. One, hot sauce and mayonnaise on bacon, egg, and cheeses, amazing. Second thing, he was the first one to really, first, definitely not the last, person to show me kind of what the All In community was about and introduced me to what David was talking about, the Valley Juneteenth Committee, Oxford Seymour. Thanks to Haynes family, Anne Marie George Temple from Seymour and Oxford. We had a great event at Quarry Walk last June. And also, if you open up your annual meeting booklets, there's a tiny piece of paper in there. If you haven't already thrown it away, please take a look at that. Follow us on social, Facebook, Instagram, check out the website. We're gonna have another event this next year in Seymour, June 15th at the community center. And also throughout the year, we're gonna be sharing information about, local historical figures you can hear more about, the Tatton family, along with many others, promoting unity and diversity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I also want to give a shout out, ask if they could briefly stand. Ty Walton and Christina Walton, powerful leaders who spoke also at the Juneteenth, Oxford residents, and the new addition, Bambina, and the family. So we appreciate you. I highly recommend you meet them before you leave the room. All right, so now I'd like to give a warm welcome to Mr. Tom Haynes. And there's a lot of pieces I was going to say about Tom, but you actually heard a lot of it sprinkled throughout this morning. In the annual report, you'll see a Head Start family who found a new home working with Dr. Hanks, working with TEAM, a Head Start and Housing Initiative. As, again, we do not have enough supply of affordable housing for our workforce and for all of our budgets. And number two, we need to increase sensitivity and understanding to the issue of what we're talking about when we say these words. And I was deeply moved by Mr. Haynes. You heard how Quarry Walk and Haynes was able to support, Pat Haynes, Tom Haynes, Kathy, bringing Juneteenth first ever to Quarry Walk were made possible. You heard a little bit about the food initiative that TEAM does, Haynes Group, and Tom, one of the most generous contributors towards that effort. Our time together at the Palace Theater in Waterbury, well, that sounds spicy. The NVCOG had a full panel, and they dedicated a piece on the housing panel, and Tom was in the audience. And again, a lot of this is on our website. You can really dive deep on, this is very solvable on the housing crisis. It's very solvable. But the time with Tom during the break, he was in the audience, and I knew of Tom, but to get a real deep sense on, the compassionate, salt of the earth type of man he is, was for me the first time of many beyond that time where we've had dinners, one-on-ones, diving deep on housing and food insecurity, as well as connecting people from all walks of life. Some of the things that Tom has built and I've seen, it feels like the UN. I mean, it says a lot about what Tom stands for, from one aspiring ally to another on this work. Recently, and Tom spoke a piece at the Seymour Town Hall. First Selectwoman Dragonis was there, First Selectman Smith, Mike, one of the board alders, Beacon Falls, Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, Lou Mangini, Rick Dunn. I mean, Tom spoke so beautifully about the critical importance of housing and affordable housing in any economic development project that I said, Tom, please, would ask you to briefly speak on this work and the cause, if you will. And that's what we need to do. We need people's voices more than anything else, and their meaningful thought partnership to help co-lead this effort. Because I will say to you, a team is very well informed by the more than 17,000 individuals across all socioeconomic levels. This region and the state of Connecticut will sink without a housing fix. All roads end at the housing opportunity, and they all begin there. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my dear friend, Tom Haynes.
I'm not coming up here like this. I love you, man. So this morning, I was kind of upset because I saw so many people walking in with jeans. And that's normally what I do, but for you this morning, I got out of bed early. And I actually went into my closet, deep into my closet, and I found my suit. So, good morning to everybody. All right, so I didn't want to compete with Reverend Riley, but there's something that, try to listen to these words. He who much is given, much is expected. He whom many toil for, much is required. Now that's a passage, I believe, from the Bible. It's on my computer screen. I stare at it. I live by it. I don't know if I butchered it, if I kind of didn't get all the words right, but the meaning's there. He who much is given, much is required. He whom many toil for, much is required. So, with that, I am outrageously humbled to be standing here in front of this group of people. I'm not going to preach about housing. I'm going to try to talk about some of the issues that I think exist and how we can solve it. We're going to talk about some solutions because one time I had, one of the many times that I sat with David and having a glass of wine or four, and we were sitting outside at Quarry Walk, and it was David and my dearest, dear friend, Bob Van Egan, wherever, I can't see behind the podium, but, so we were sitting outside, and my little talk right now is gonna be tied to that sit down, because David sent me a picture, and at the end of our talk, because when we talk, it's not about all the roses that we can bring, it's about the reality of our situation. But when we were sitting there, out of nowhere, standing above, shining above our American flags at Quarry Walk on the boulevard, because we were sitting outside, and our pride flags, was a rainbow that was shining over. And I'm going to talk about what I view as reality, but at the end of the day, we can do this. There's a rainbow. And if we all stay together and we all join forces, we can get this done. So let me talk a little bit. I am holding this eco-friendly notebook. Does anybody have one? Who's got one? There you go. Who's that, Ben? Yeah, Ben's got one. Anybody else? David, do you have one? No. You don't have one? So I got this at the Envision at up at the Palace Theater, all right? And so that was my introduction to David Morgan. So I was sitting in the audience because housing is something that's passionate for me and my business. And I was with Kathy, and I think actually I was sitting with Mark Loretti too at one point, and I think Patrick, my son Patrick, was here. So we were there, and I had never gotten to listen to Dave Morgan. So it's an amazing, if anybody really wants to be inspired, you should really go to your website and team's website and listen to some of that, of what David's work is. But I'm gonna quote something, and I don't know how this works, David, but somehow, and I don't know if you, your team at Team can tell me whether this is really true, but you had said, nothing about us without us is for us. Nothing about us without us is for us. And you said, and how you then take and interpret that, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. I believe that's pretty true, gang. I mean, if you're not going to get involved, you're on the menu, all right? And so you need to get at the table and get involved. So I talk a lot about table because I talk a lot about kitchen table. If anybody's ever heard me speak, and I speak one-on-one, and I speak to as many people will listen to me drone and drone on, our life's at a kitchen table. There's a number, 99.9%. Everybody know what that means? 0.1% is the difference between 99.9% and 100%. And when you sit at your table right here, look at each other. The difference in our DNA in this world between every single human being is 0.1%. Can you imagine that? How is that possible? And then the world is so messed up. I don't get it. I don't get it. But when I talk about the table becomes metaphoric. It's about taking care of what's around you. We all get wrapped up in the national news, and God, it's overwhelming. Whoever wants to get out of bed and ever think you can make a difference, it's very difficult. Although there are some people in this room that I think do get up and make a difference in a huge worldly way. But for me, I think that living at our kitchen table means taking care of what is in front of us and the things that we can help and control. And I know you said briefly, so I will try to sort of do this, but you did say speak from my heart. So when I think of the kitchen table, I'm going to give you a little bit of background as to why I think David asked me to speak. So I think he wasn't interested in who I am. I think he was more interested in what I am and what that means, and he'd like to hear a perspective from somebody like me. Congresswoman Delora had given us a few $1 million to kickstart a project, and during that discussion, we had talked about our past, and she grew up in New Haven, and my family grew up in New Haven. So I'm one of 6 kids. I was born in New Haven. I lived there till I was 2 years old, opposite the Whaley Avenue Jail. Moved to West Haven, lived there till I was 7 years old. I went to Lincoln Elementary School. I still go by there occasionally. It's not operating, but it was a very diverse world that I grew up in, 7 years old. Moved to the big country of Seymour, lived there till, I don't know, about 25. Bought a house, got married, bought a house, stayed in Seymour. Then I ended up down through life's sort of weaving down on North Main Street in Ansonia. So Mayor Cassetti, I don't know, he's gone, but I was a taxpayer in Ansonia for a while. Would have voted for you if you were running back then. And then I moved to Beacon Falls. And after a number of years, took my family, and as all privileged, and I use the word privileged, people tend to do. Took all that family and moved up to a big old suburban neighborhood in Southbury, where it seems us privileged white men seem to do. And we can get caught up, so I was there for about 30 years. 30 years up there, raised a wonderful family, and live that life of, I guess, privilege. So a couple of years ago, I had the good fortune to move, and I'll talk to you about a little bit where I now live, and it's no longer in that neighborhood of, I will say, privilege, which I say that a bit, as you guys can tell, a bit sarcastically. But I want to talk about the kitchen table. I want to talk about the great things going on in the Valley, and I want to talk about a case study. So I'm going to speak to you as why David, I think, asked me to speak is because I'm a developer. And I have a perspective of doing good. I believe that I'm a capitalist, so tried and true, dyed-in-the-wool capitalist. I believe in capitalism. There's a term, I forgot what it is, it's capitalism doing good or whatever the term is. We had this long discussion over drinks the other night, and I'm a capitalist that believes that the only way to have true success is by sharing and making the world a better place. So I believe that success and capitalism can go together and do good in this world. So I'm going to just quickly tell you about a little case study and some of the oppositions and the positives. We have a little project that Juneteenth was held at, and that was a project that was dreamed up by our company probably about 20 years ago, and it took us about 8 years to get approved. So I really want to give everybody a sort of an understanding what it's like to be in the shoes of a developer trying to provide housing. We created Quarry Walk. We had to go through zoning. We had to do a lot of, we spent so much time and years getting through the process of zoning, of regulatory, of getting utilities, of and public improvements. And I will tell you, if you've been to Quarry Walk, and if you haven't, get up there. Kathy's right there. She'll leash you space or do whatever. But Quarry Walk is really something that we're incredibly proud of. But it took us 8 years to get that project approved, probably even longer prepping to get it into zoning. It took us about 8 years of, and millions of dollars, to get that project through zoning and to get a shovel in the ground. While it looks great now, what I really want to talk about is what it took to get us there. And when we talked about Representative Q, I was here last year. I was so moved. I mean, it was incredible. And but behold, the unadulterable truth. We were in zoning, and I don't see anybody from Oxford here, so I can really be honest about this. This is what a developer has to go through. We had a local opposition, organized, elected officials actually, believe it or not, in position of power to be able to stop a project. And if you've been to Quarry Walk, you'd say, how in the world, nobody's going to stop this project. It's crazy. It does everything. It provides everything. Taxes, currently it generates over $2 million of next tax revenue. It has over 2,000 jobs that didn't exist. It just does meet so much of the need. But there was an organized effort, and the effort was against housing. They said, build shopping center all you want. But you know what? If you want to build apartments, if you want those people to come to our town, yeah. It gets even worse. There was an organized group that didn't have the acronym KOW, but it meant Keep Oxford White. Yeah, I don't mean to, but I'm going to be honest, because that's all we all have to do, because if we're ever going to move this needle, we all have got to be honest about what our world is. So we had an organized effort against us. Horrible. Mailed out flyers to every townsperson in Oxford that we were going to build a housing project that was recently taken down on Olson Drive, and said that Haynes is going to come in and destroy Oxford. Now, you'd think in this day and age, this stuff doesn't go on. But in the normal fashion, we don't fight with people. So we organized, and Kathy and I went up to have a meeting with the head of this organization. And that's why I invoke Representative Q, is that we were sitting with the head of this group that was opposing us, and we laid out a couple hundred units we want to build, and he said, looking at the drawings, said, yeah, nicely done, but we will only accept 88 units. We will only accept 88 units. Well, I'm just a naive kid from the valley, so I'm like, I don't get it, and Kathy doesn't get it. And does anybody in here understand what the significance of the number 88 is? I know, Pat, you've heard this story. I know. No, that's good. That's good. So the opposition was 88 units or nothing. We left dumbfounded and said, well, this isn't going to go anywhere, so we left. So Kathy and I left, and there was a reporter at that time, Hugh Bailey, and he's still around, huge supporter and proponent of housing, fixing our social issues through housing. He calls up Kathy, and he says, Kathy, I hear you had a meeting with this group, and how'd it go? And she explained to him, and he said, well, listen, he really said 88? And Kathy said, yeah, 88, but that's the deal, and we don't get it. He said, well, I'm just reporting. I can't lead you down the wrong path. You need to Google 88. And you can all put your heads down and grab your phone and Google 88. But this was only, how many years ago, Kathy? How many years ago was this? Because this is 2023. This is, 10 years ago while this is now. This isn't like 88 stands for the 8th letter of the alphabet. Heil Hitler, white supremacy. It's the symbol for white supremacy. In 2015, we had to sit across the table from somebody, white guy like me, telling us that they would only allow 88 housing units to be built on our project. Well, a couple things that most people that know me, that's all we need, because we have 162 units right now. I wish that we had gotten 176 and doubled it, but we only got 162. We marched right down to the Department of Justice. And it was with the help of the Department of Justice, we got that group to go away. We got our project approved. And currently, up at Quarry Walk, as I said, there's a couple thousand people work there. I happen to live there now. And I don't know who somebody said the United Nations, but it is the most diverse place. And I don't know where everybody got up this morning. A couple years ago, I never thought I'd get up and have the neighbors I have now. I asked a neighbor of mine to come, but she can't because she runs her own business and something kept her. My neighbor at Quarry Walk is an African-American woman married to a beautiful woman. It's the most inspiring, that's the proudest part of my business and my job, is to be able to be living now in this world where there's such a diversity, and that there's no fights, there's no people screaming, and there's no bad stuff. I mean, it's just normal human stuff. So Quarry Walk, I share as a case study that it's possible. It's possible, and that's what we all need to live in, is a Quarry Walk. So I know you'd like me to move along, David, and I promise you I'm gonna. So I want to talk about what we need to do. So the Valley's got a lot of great stuff going on. If you're from Shelton and from Derby, I mean, Derby's downtown. I don't know if Zeke is still here. Oh, Roger, yep. Great project that they've got, and Sonia's doing great. If you ever guys want to go to a great restaurant, go to Relish downtown, and Sonia, I go there often. It's a great place. And then I'll go up to Naugatuck, and Naugatuck has got phenomenal stuff going all the way up to Waterbury, and then Seymour and Beacon Falls. We need some work. We got to get some stuff going in Seymour, Beacon Falls, but that's soon to happen. The other night, and I think that part of the solution I'm going to speak to is that we need businesses. Businesses, our biggest asset right now, and always has been, is our people. We can't remain competitive in Connecticut unless we can afford to pay our employees. And that's the struggle that all business people have, is trying to remain competitive and pay your employees. Well, the flip side of that, and the reality of that, is our employees can't afford to live in Connecticut. And they can't afford to come to work for people like me. I think the average wage that's needed for a two-bedroom apartment, $1,660 a month for a two-bedroom house or a two-bedroom apartment in Connecticut, requires you to make about $32 an hour. That's a lot of money. I look around this room, I see some business owners. Can you afford to pay? And that's just to make ends meet. That's not at all to be successful and save for your future. That's just to be able to put food on your table, which we all know, without being able to pay for your housing, food is the first thing that goes. And that creates such a spiral of all the issues. And again, I'm not here to speak to those because you all know those. You all know those. So I want to just real quickly, I'll get off of this. I had dinner the other night with the president of CBIA, thanks to my dear friend Bing, if you're still here, Bing Carbone. We put together a dinner, and Bing Carbone was asked by the president of CBIA, Connecticut Business Industry Association, is the largest business employer in the or largest business representative in the state of Connecticut. And he asked to come to Quarry Walk because he said he needed to see Quarry Walk because Quarry Walk is what the model of solution for housing in a sustainable, healthy way to be. They have over 400,000, I believe, employees under that umbrella. I brought up a whole housing policy initiative that CBIA is in. That's the number one issue that CBIA is dealing with, is how their employers can support housing and what it can do. Valley Chamber, along with Bill Purcell, our leader out in the background out there, with Pat Charmel and myself and a couple other direct board members, are working to create a coalition to help solve housing in the Valley and help solve food insecurity, hunger. Bottom line is, if we all look at our kitchen table, if we just look at our kitchen table, and that means our area here, if you're an employee, go to your employer. Ask them to get involved. Businesses have to stand up. We all have to stand up and get involved. And businesses are the solution. As much as we're the devil and the evil part of the world, we are the solution, because people spend more time with us than they do with anybody else except for maybe their pillow. So we have the opportunity as business people to get involved. So that means get involved locally. We can't solve the world's problem. So when I said, he who much is given, much is expected, he who many toil for, much is required. Well, I'm one of those people that people are toiling for me. And if you're one of those people in this audience, get involved, because we're the solution to this crisis. So that's where I'm at. Sorry to take so long.
Thank you so much, Tom. Lastly, we're going to conclude, and I'm going to ask the Jones to close us out with their closing remarks, which I always find inspiring. But I'd like to bring this group to the hills of Shelton and Jones Family Farms, which has upheld a commitment to the sustainable and diverse agricultural and farm hospitality operations for nearly 200 years. And on your table and in your packet, and I hope you take it with you with real deliberate intentionality, we amplified two beautiful messages when we think about making the good louder than the bad. These two opinion pieces from fifth generation farmer, Mr. Terry Jones, who is here with Jean, his wife, as well as sixth generation Jamie Jones and his wife, Christiana. And one is a Valentine to our Mother Earth, and the other is Every Day is Earth Day. And these were broadly well received and amplified from the Connecticut Post and Connecticut Insider. And a couple of pieces in there where Terry speaks to Valentines are an expression of appreciation to those who care for us, and a commitment to care for those in return to them in return. And he reflects on his travels south to Patagonia to learn the lessons of the land and the waters in southern Chile and the Andes Mountains, and was inspired by the fierce love of the land and the shared common bond of passion for Mother Earth as well as for one another. And, quote, the people worked together. The people worked together. Resonates immensely with Mr. Haynes' words. And even dropping the quote from John F. Kennedy, our most common link is that we all inhabit this planet. We all breathe the same air, and we all cherish our children's future, and we are all mortal. I hope you take these pieces. I've got them propped in my office on a standing 8.5 by 11 stand up. And then his other piece on the Every Day is Earth Day, and the words of founder of Jones Family Farm, Philip James Jones, is referenced in there. Be good to the land, and the land will be good to you. And another quote that resonates deeply in our work: we are all sisters and brothers living on this planet. We stand together. We renew our commitment to one another, to our life's journey, and to caring for our Mother Earth. And serendipitously, unbeknownst to all of us at Team, I think as Mr. Purcell said, when you're hot, you're hot. But Jones Family Farms, just last week was recognized with the 2023 New England Loophole Conservation Award. A very well-known book, came out in the late 40s, that spoke to the ethical relationship between the people and the land they own and manage. And a beautiful, poignant 6-minute video. We'll release it out, and even in the first 90 seconds, to see the beauty of the landscape of Jones Family Farms in the White Hills of Shelton. And then prior to that, not just too long ago, they were recognized with the 2023 Environmental Champion Awards in the small business category by our very own Aquarian Water Company. Mr. George Logan and many from Aquarian continue to pour themselves into the work of Team as well. And I want to shine the light on Jamie Jones and Christiana, again, 6th generation farmer. And those, if you don't know, the farm, it's divided into 3 locations. You have the Homestead Farm, the Valley Farm, the Pumpkin Seed Hill, where Christmas trees, strawberries, blueberries, pumpkins, gourds, squash are all cultivated on 400 acres right here in Shelton in the valley. And visitors are invited to harvest their own berries, pumpkins, Christmas trees. In the Jones family, they host more than 10 acres of grapevines. And Jamie, again, 6th generation, established Jones Winery in 1999, which has become well-known, very prominent as one of Connecticut's premier wineries right here in Shelton. And it showcases not only the best of Connecticut, but also how the Jones and Jamie and the team, they use a large percentage of their local fruits directly in their wines. And in 2021, Jamie's Jones' commitment to environmental sustainability led to the installation of a solar array that powers the winery's production and bottling facility, harnessing the team's energy to power the facility just as the sun powers the growth of the grapevines and ripens the fruit in the vineyard at Jones Family Farms and Winery. And Jamie, along with his wife Christiana and parents Terry and Jean, they continue to be respected leaders in the industry. Jamie is director of the Fairfield County Farm Bureau, the Connecticut Vineyard and Winery Association, and the Governor's Council for Agricultural Development. And everyone at Jones Family Farm and Winery has created a harmonious living environment right here in Shelton with the beautiful stone walls, well-maintained fields, and a peaceful atmosphere. And their longevity and success reflects their ongoing efforts to sustainably care for the land, leave the world a little better place than it was before, and providing a memorable experience for the thousands that visit Jones Family Farms and Winery. And I lastly want to add a little piece. It's been multiple years on Team's pathway, working closely with Terry and Jamie and many at Jones Family Farms. But the ripples of kindness that they have done that has left a transformative impact and meaningful difference for Team, and above all, so many that turn to Team. And you see the numbers and the impact in our report. And, you know, what you have all done with our own capacity and Team and being fearless in the front line on social and economic and environmental and health impact. I'll share two little quick stories, and then I'm going to turn it over to the Jones. Evergreen Christmas trees right from the farm. And it's done very silently without the fanfare, but Jones, they lean into Team Inc. and say, we know who needs it the most. We know who could most benefit. We don't want any spotlights. But if you know some families, and you heard what Maureen was talking about the holiday season, and so we've worked very closely with the Jones where we'll identify families to further help make the magic happen, and one less thing to keep money in the pockets of people who really need it the most. And so imagine these trees filling the homes of residents who have turned to Team at no cost, but at the cost of the immense compassion and generosity of Jones Family Farms, which is very beautiful, and it's a conditional piece, you know, to again lighten the stress on too many households turning to Team. And the second one, which I would say to you is a legacy effort and has a transformative root causality impact. I wonder how many of you know that due to Terry Jones and the Jones Family Fund, that more than 70 young children have had access to a high-quality child care experience who otherwise would not have been able to afford it, who otherwise would not have been able to access it. Some of that was highlighted. I have these anecdotes sitting with then Governor Malloy, coming to Susanna Wesley School, sitting down with Terry Jones, who a leader in many aspects, including in the human services front line, was on the State Board of Education and really embodied that voice of, don't care what your political affiliation. We're going to get this done for our kids. We're building a better tomorrow. And not only demonstrated that at the state level, and I was just honored and blessed to even play a little piece working with you, Terry, and Jamie, and Christiana, and Jean. And how many people know or don't know about that? And forgive me, I must make the good louder than the bad. And so on behalf of everybody here and everyone at Team, we present the Team President's Award, given to an organization that has made a broad, profound, and positive impact on the quality of human services in the region and in the state of Connecticut. Not only are you an exemplar and inspiration in agricultural education and innovation, the caretaking of the lands, the diversity in harvests, and the human experience in bringing people together and leaving a positive mark on this earth, you have made a meaningful difference for Team over many years, and above all, throughout the lives of thousands and Team's communities. Please, Terry, Jamie, Christiana, Jean, if you're willing, please come up. This one is really heavy. And as I'm trying to take this out without breaking it, I would like to ask someone from the Jones family, no pressure, you two can fight about it or point at each other, but to please provide some closing remarks as we leave today.
I'll try and be quick. I know my dad wants to say a few things. But I stand up here. David told us about this long before even those other awards were going to be bestowed upon us, and that alone would have been enough for this year. But there's been a lot of eloquence up here already. I think Tom kind of hit on some of my thoughts already. There's a lot going on in this world right now. You don't need to even reference between internationally in this country. And you really don't have to look much farther than the community you live in to know there's things that you can do. I think we're in a room of doers here, and you get really frustrated because it's like you think you can solve these problems, but it's just too much. So I wake up every day and I say, I can take care of my family. I can run a business and create a culture of a healthy, happy, comfortable working environment. I can make our community better. We're stewards to really now over 500 acres of land. I can take care of that land, make it better for the environment, grow food. Every year we plant an extra few rows of winter squash. So we know that the Connecticut Food Bank usually receives over 10,000 pounds of winter squash every year to distribute to residents of Connecticut. We can make a wonderful experience for tens of thousands of families to visit us every year, and hopefully they have a good experience learning about the farm and just being comfortable in the outdoor environment. So, but yet I still am very humbled because I really feel like it pales in comparison to what a lot of the people are doing in this room. So again, thank you very much. I really appreciate being here, and Dad, I'll let you finish up.
Thank you, Jamie. And much of what I could have said has been said. So I want to focus just on uplifting an experience that I had 40 years ago. And it was with a gentleman named John Vitka. And after we leave here, we're going to his memorial service at St. Lawrence. He passed just a week ago, but many of you have alluded to Pumpkin Seed Hill. How many of you have been to Pumpkin Seed Hill? A lot of hands. And I grew up looking across the valley at the Bachkowski family from the Ukraine who farmed that hillside. And we never thought too much about it other than it was an amazing part of our ecosystem. And I got a call, old-fashioned phone, 8 o'clock in the evening, the middle of December, 1984. John Vitka is a realtor. He was also a builder, but a great friend of the farm. His kids grew up working with us. Terry, I just wanted to let you know the Bachkowski farm is on the market, and I'm the realtor. And I just thought you should know. And it's been approved for 83 houses. Not Quarry Walk community, I can assure you, but McMansions, 2 miles of streets. Just want to let you know. Well, we suddenly realized, like a lightning bolt, that our whole being in the environment around us was about to change. And the family, you know, this is a very busy time. I had an 8-year-old kid named Jamie and a 5-year-old Gwen, and we were, what can we do? Well, we got with John Vitka and worked out an offer. It was actually the asking price, which I still can't believe that. It was $1.5 million. Did a contract, our offer got accepted. After that, we realized that John Vitka, he was the realtor, but he had the exclusive listing for each of those 83 new homes. I can almost tear up. He knew when he called me, you do the math, what he was giving up. Sure, he got his commission for the farm, but 83 houses, it was an annuity for the rest of his life. And I just lift that up. These are the human beings that there are many of them in this room and in the valley, and that's what makes us what we are in the valley. And after we got the farm, of course, Jean left her other work, and we worked to get it together, and we began to have school tours, and we worked with team on the Head Start, and we would give at no charge the Head Start all the tours they want. And I'll just close with this. And I'm just one individual. I'm on the shoulders of several generations and generations coming after, and it's just one little point in time. But as those of you who know, people come for memories and experience on Pumpkin Seed Hill. And last year, cars are piling into the parking lot in the hayfield, and out jumps an African-American family and two beautiful little black girls, maybe 4 or 5 years old, dressed beautifully, holding hands and skipping to the entrance across the field. And the parallel parking lot, a car pulls up, and a little white boy, he jumps out, and he leaps over the log, and he grabs the hand of one of those two girls, and they all skip their way together to the entrance. That's what we've got to do. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you, Jones.
And please take the pumpkins and gourds on your tables, generously donated by Jones Family Farms, and a Toys for Kids box on the way out. Thank you.